Hello, mate.
Hey, Chris,
Hi,
how
mate.
you doing?
I'm good. How are
Hey,
you?
Adam.
How's it going, mate? You alright?
I'm all tickety-boo, apart from the fact I haven't actually played drums professionally now for, 4 weeks? And I guess you guys are all very similar with that.
I was going to say 30 years.
Well, I mean, I've played professionally for 30 years and more. This is my 32nd year as a pro. And I must admit, I've never been in a situation where there's been no work for anyone. Across, the whole country and the wider world. It's really kind of interesting times. So, but not to say that 30 years I've acted professionally. That's a different question. That's a whole different thing.
That's a long time to play music.
It's a long time to play music, and I must admit that going back to when I was 17 when I first turned pro. You don't look that far ahead. So somebody said to me then, when you're coming up for 49 and you'll still be a working professional musician, then I would have went, no, you're talking rubbish. That's not going to happen. I'm either going to become a huge rock star and play for Maiden, or it's not going to happen at all. So but here I am, still going strong. Do you like my t-shirt today? It's a 5-finger death punch.
Oh yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
They're a bit mental, I believe.
They are a bit mental, but the guy who plays kit on that, his double kick was just insane.
Yeah. There's a lot of scary guys that could do that, and I've never actually learned to do it at all.
I've messed around. I've got from time to time I get the double pedal up and I kind of go for it, and then I kind of have to leave it again because I'm doing show 2s for the next 6 months, which there's not much place for. I mean, I guess I remember Charlie Benanti from Anthrax talking about speed metal kind of just being like a polka, jump, and actually. That's certainly true, but it was interesting sort of Charlie Benanti talking about playing a polka. That was.
Do you know the wonderful Sandro Chancho?
Oh, I know Sandro well. I haven't seen him for a long time, but yeah, I know.
The only guy I ever know to turn up to a jazz pub gig with a double pedal and a set of rototoms.
No way.
That's Sandro.
And then playing Caravan. Like he's
brilliant.
Simon Phillips or something, he's amazing.
He is amazing. And sometimes what's really interesting about that stuff is I did that for a while on some gigs, and what you would do is I would just literally just turn what I would do in my hi-hat pedal, just switch the foot across to the left slave pedal, and just do what you would do normally. And it's that used to create some interesting sort of things, because instead of having obviously the hi-hat going on the offbeat or the downbeat or playing eighths or whatever, you would then have that plus on the left kick drum or the left slave pedal and your right foot normal stuff, and you get these interesting patterns going underneath cymbals and toms, and it was really it could be a bit overkill, but it was always quite an interesting thing that would happen. So it's definitely worth experimenting with that, I think, if you ever get a chance, just to sort of maybe not on a gig.
Absolutely on a gig. If you changed, if you were used to a certain sound source, right? So the hi-hat is the sound of your left foot. Did it ever throw your brain when you immediately make that a pedal, so that becomes a bass drum sound?
I can't think of any instance where that happened. I'm sure it must have done. Actually, I must tell you my great left foot clave story. That the first time I ever used that on a gig. That's a nice lead into that. But no, it always used to be that, I think, because what you would normally do with your left foot becomes, or if you're left-handed, your right foot on the hi-hat pedal. I think it's a sort of instinctive thing eventually. Right. The way you're moving your foot, even if you're not actually opening and closing the hi-hat, so you're still moving your left foot. So I think it's instinctive things. So as long as you just trust your instinct and don't sort of fight your, use your ears to fight what your left foot will do, you'll be fine in that sense. It wouldn't necessarily cause you any problems. I mean, as I say, I can't think of an instance off the top of my head, but I'm sure it must have been one time when I was doing something and it kind of went about, what's my feet doing, So yeah, no, that I mean, yeah, it must happen, but I think it's just, I think those kind of experiments, moving bits of your kit around and you know, doing things with your feet that you might not normally do, I think those are all really worthwhile. You know, if you just play the way you'd normally play, just change your sound sources and you know change, you know, you can add toms, take toms, just put, you know, things you would normally do somewhere else, and just put them on different sounds, and I mean you'll always get something interesting. Whether it's the right thing for the musical moment, that's a different issue. But that's, you know, yeah. If our drummers were louder than anyone else, you know.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of that experimentation missing these days, or do you think there's more of it than there used to be?
Well, I think it might depend on where, you know, what you're doing, and I think there's some incredible creativity at the minute, both in, you know, just guys who are playing kits and doing stuff on YouTube and stuff on their own, and also within music itself. I mean, I'm always getting pushed towards like new artists that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily come across just by doing the, you know, the usual checking on iTunes or, you know, the usual sort of way, you know, and there's always some interesting stuff going on. One of the things I think is really interesting now is the way people are using drum kit sounds and the way that's being used. I mean, so I'm hearing a lot of different, like, you know, different snare drum tunings, and I'm hearing combinations of that, like across a whole range. I don't think there's a trend at the minute, certainly in terms of music in general. Maybe in the more pop, sort of pop based world. But I think guys are pretty experimental with their sound, certainly for sure. From what I can see, I mean, in the world that I'm mainly working at the minute, you have got a kind of sort of, not restriction, but you have got a, you know, a sort of product to play. So you have to, you know, think about, okay, well, this is an 80s based show, so it's going to have to sound like it's the 1980s, or, you know, so on and so forth. Yeah. But no, I think there is. I think I'm always loving, like, what's around at the minute. I can't think of any artists off the top of my head, but there's just so much. I think there's so much creativity at the minute. I think it's a real boom time for drums and drummers and music in general. I think with the range of stuff that's out there. Yeah,
I think Adam will maybe qualify this for me, but it's maybe got a lot to do with the availability of gear now, and
for sure. Yeah.
You know, what kind of new products. I mean, some of the stuff we see coming through a shop that isn't then utilised. I think, Adam, you ran before you worked for us, you ran a big fat snare competition, eh?
Yeah. So like even things like that, like products like that coming out are just, you know, like, I think about it in the studio perspective, and I suppose for yourself this is relevant for you, Alan, because in the theatre show you might have to change a sound very quickly, you know, sometimes even between a bar, you know, and I think Big Fat Snare Drum is great for that kind of thing, because if you need to go from all of a sudden a really tight hip hop kind of funk kind of groove all of a sudden to like a really beefy power pop ballad, you know.
Yeah.
Before you would have to have your own dedicated drum for that, you know, or like a dedicated sample of some kind to do that. Whereas now you can literally use the same drum, and things like that, you know, are great. You know. Yeah.
No, absolutely, for sure. I mean, and that is definitely a thing that happens. You know, because on one show you might have. I mean, obviously you sat in the Bodyguard and had a couple of snares on that. The last show I was doing, until obviously we get shut down, was Priscilla, which was far more. It's just 80s sort of disco and 80s 90s discos, you know, 4 on the floor, pretty much all the way down. So that was a real basic kit: 2 toms, you know, snare drum, hi-hats and 2 crashes and ride. So it was a real sort of stripped down thing, specific, because all you're doing is like disco, sets, you know, you're just doing that all the time. So, but other things you would definitely have to, and there's a couple of shows I know that I've got 3 or 4 snares. I sat in on with Tim Goodyear, who's on Hamilton in town.
Oh, wow.
And I think he's got about 4 snares. Yeah. We go way back. So when I had some time off, I went and sort of had a bit of a catch up, and I think he's got about 4 snare drums.
Wow.
on that show. and they all do specific things. I think he's got an old proper old school marching sort of goat skin, goat, you know, the kind of the old school snare wires, which are you know, made of animal products. You know?
Wow.
I think so. I don't quote me on that because I can't actually remember. But he had some old marching drum in there. So that you know, there are definitely situations where you're going to have 3 or 4 snares these days. You know, because you're expected to have such a wide range of sounds at your availability. I think I've got about 10 snares in my personal collection at the minute. And I've got one that's never been played as well. So that's
What is it?
For the. I'm just. What's up? Was that Adam? Sorry.
What is it? What is the snare drum you've got?
It's you'll understand why. It's the Sonar one.
Oh, you bought the Phonic reissue, didn't you?
Yeah. It's never seen. It's in this bag. It's nicely, safely stored. I'm not going to tell anyone where because it's. But yeah, that I mean, I've had a couple of hits on it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful drum. But it's just sitting there like there'll be a moment when I get to use it. But because every drum I buy and use, you know, I have it for a purpose. You know, whether that purpose wherever it comes along, that's you know, that's a separate issue. But there'll be a time, you know, hopefully within the next year or two, when I start to get you know, when I start to get you know, when we all get back to work, you know, there'll be so but yeah.
You seem quite positive about the young guard that's coming through. A lot of young players coming through.
Love it.
Is that something you've managed to sustain for 30 years?
I really, I think, you know, when you become a sort of, you know, dare I say, a sort of elder statesman, and you've been around for a while, you'd see a lot of changes. You're used to how things change. I mean, I can remember being back home when guys like Alan Koska showed up in the scene, and I had sort of quite a lot of the jazz gigs, and then there was a whole new breed come through, and then I ended up playing with like a lot of the guys that Alan played for, and did a lot of deps for Alan. When, and I think you can't afford to be, you know, jealous or bitter or unaccepting of the new talent that's coming through. You have to listen to what they're doing and see what you can take from it, because there's going to be new ideas, and it helps you keep up to date with what's happening. And it's just the excitement of knowing how I still feel about it. I mean, I still get a buzz from finding things I can't do, or seeing a new idea, or like, oh, how does that guy do this?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on with your feet and hands there? That's an incredible fill, because musically it works. And then going, right, I need to go home and work on that. I'm going to see if I can incorporate that into what I do. And just the thrill of seeing people who are just up for playing. There's quite a lot of younger sort of guys and who are incredible players. And in fact, you had Dan Hayward.
Yeah, that's right.
That was great. I mean, Dan, I depped for Dan for a few shows on Your Feet. It was terrifying because Dan plays so well. Like, you know, depping's difficult anyway, but it makes it a lot harder when the guy you're depping is an absolute monster. And you know, and that's exciting for me, because I listened to the way he played, and you know, I thought, okay, well that's an approach to that I, you know, and I've done a bit of Latin stuff in my time. You know, that's an approach to that I didn't have. There was one particular fill he did at the end of Conga, at the end of the end of the first half. And it led into a push, and it was a beautiful fill. And it was just like perfect. I thought I would never have played that. So you take it, you learn. I remember when I sat in with him, I asked him for the sticking for it, and he was, oh yeah, it's this, and I went, it's so simple but absolutely effective. There's another guy in the kind of theatre world. I mean, there's quite a few, but a guy called Liam Waugh, who's an incredible player, solid. I mean, just time is just like boof, boof, it's just right down the line. Beautiful. Yeah, there's so much. Yes, I get really excited by just hearing, you know, new guys. I mean, it's always been a thrill for me. Even back in the days when I used to teach, you know, you'd be teaching at Strathclyde University or somewhere like that, and a guy would come in who you're supposed to give some lessons to, and so you give a few pointers in a direction or whatever, and then you let them play, and I say him, this could obviously be him or her, but the way they would play would be like, oh, I never thought about that. I never even thought about that. That's because you're always going to learn from people if you approach it from a point of view of, this is the new breed, this is the new stuff, these guys are more up to date with what's out there, and it keeps me fresh as well. I mean, thankfully, I think I'm quite a sort of exuberant, high energy person. Sometimes too much for my own good, but when I get that thrill, I mean, it's still the best thing in the world to sort of just meet people who are really into the music. On any instrument, Sure.
It's funny because you mentioned teaching, and it's no secret you used to teach me back in the 90s, and
yeah, I do apologise for that. But you learned all the good stuff after that.
But what I was going to say is the way we learned music then is very different from how people learn music now. I mean, you wouldn't think twice back then of teaching me a samba or a songo or a bossa nova, but I just don't know that that's happening now.
No. I think that's right from what I understand. Yeah, but I think that maybe. Sorry, you go. Well,
I was going to relate it to your career, because if you think about the shows that you've played, you're playing on a disco show just now. You've played on when you did Dirty Dancing. I mean, the eclectic score and pad on that. You played everything from the 60s right through. It must be fascinating to watch young kids and think, would they be able to come in and do the job you do, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there is. I think there are possibly one or two, and I might be wrong in this, but I think there's one or two stylistic things that are a bit lacking. I think the Latin thing seems to have taken a little bit of a backseat from what I can understand. I mean, as I say, I might be wrong about that, so I'm not going to quote because I'm not entirely up to date with who's doing what. And there are some incredible guys who do the Latin thing who are obviously, sort of new and young. But from what I can understand, I think, because when I was starting to play, because of the whole Weckel thing and everything, it was the Latin thing was big. And
right.
It was, everyone. You had to have your Latin chops. You had to, and then the Funkifying the Clavi book and all those things came out, and then Horatio arrived. So the Latin thing was big. So everyone had to. So you learned to play your samba. These were like you had your songos, your mambos, and even if you weren't totally up to date with the traditional aspect of it, you certainly had the basics and the fundamentals of it. So I'm not entirely sure if that's still as big a thing, but there are other things that are much more prevalent now than they were obviously when I was starting out, or I mean, electronics and
okay.
home recording, the whole YouTube thing. I mean, how to sort of self-promote's much more of a thing now. So there are definitely things that I would say might not be the same as when we started, but there are things that are obviously different and that I'm not as up to date on. And that's part of the whole thing of I have to move with the times, or anyone has to move with the times, as it progresses, or else you are going to sort of be left behind and you're going to miss out on just some good things to play and some interesting ideas. Yeah.
I mean, Adam, you're a wee bit younger than me, so how was it for you coming up through school?
Speaking as a young card.
If he's a little bit younger than you, he's a lot younger than me.
But like, how was your experience of learning music at school?
I mean, I guess it was pretty varied, but perhaps not as extensive. Like, I remember when I was first learning, certainly, we got to get through my standard grades, as they were called back in the day for me.
I remember them. They changed when I was at school. Yeah, it went from O levels to standard grades when I was in school. So there you go.
No way. That's quite frightening. But yeah, so like my teacher at the time, he taught me kind of various kind of samba patterns, but like none of them have really. What's the best kind of way to phrase this? They've been helpful, but I've maybe not kind of realised how helpful they've not consciously realised how influential they've been on my playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because that was only my only experience of it really. So yeah, it's a bit weird because I more or less went from okay, learn how to play this samba groove to pass an exam to like okay, now play like Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, go. You know, like or like play Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. You know, that was my kind of upbringing to it. So it was very kind of different, I suppose. Where I didn't have a teacher that kind of said, okay, this week we're going to focus on Latin, this week we're going to focus on samba or whatever, you know. And I don't know if that was a way of, maybe my teacher was trying to prepare me for that world of, okay, play 4/4, you know. I don't know. But certainly it was much different from kind of yours, Chris, and certainly yours, Alan. Because I guess I don't know if it's a way of, yeah, exactly, you had to, so I don't know if it was maybe a way of, again, the times maybe changing, of like, well, how relevant is this going to be in the modern world of wanting to be a musician? You know what I mean?
But I think part of an educator's thing though should be to always be aware of where things can possibly go. So when I used to do a bit of teaching, I never thought about it as like I'm going to teach, you know, somebody specific things. Obviously, if it was a total beginner and there was a, you know, I would obviously get the basics and do what I could to sort of, you know, get those fundamentals in place. But then after that, or taking somebody, you know, who had already played a bit, and I, you know, I'm sure Chris would probably agree with this, is I tried to, rather than look at, unless I was asked to look at a specific thing, I would try and think about like, okay, what's the overall ability here? So what's your kind of skills you need to get out into the open world and have all the facility you need, and then you just change it a little bit. So it was about creating the vocabulary. So I would set up exercises about, you know, moving around the kit, and then maybe give some suggestions to guys how they might want to use that, but leave it to the individual to do it, because that makes it theirs. And then you'd maybe come across some technical things about like, okay, how does this work with your feet and hands, and how can you separate them up and unify them, and, you know, tidy them up and do that with a click, and do it without a click as well. That was always a big lesson I used to find was an interesting one, trying to get people to sort of have good time without the click, because of course you start off in a place where you're not used to click, then you learn how to play with a click, and then take the click away and it can get a bit wobbly, because obviously that's that. So I would always make sure that there was an approach to somebody's playing that was like you took the click away as well, so that when you go out into a gig or an environment, you turn around and you can deal with the click being there, you can deal with the click not being there. You know, somebody's going to give you a ballad or a thing in 7/8 or a, you know, or a bunch of pop tunes, whatever they may be, or a bunch of metal tunes, and so on and so forth.
My cat is making an appearance.
Hey! What's his name?
That was Hazel.
The guy then.
No, I get Hazel. So she's. I think she wants out, but she's not getting out right now. It's raining.
Oh, okay.
No, I remember you used to cross train us, which I thought was quite.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so anything.
Was that because cross because I was angry?
Yeah. Like anything you would teach us, you made sure had an actual application elsewhere. So if you're teaching a Latin groove, well, here's how it might creep into pop, and here's how it might creep into rock, and here's why these skills are actually necessary. I'm not just teaching you them because I can, you know, to tick a box, or if it was to tick a box, then there was always another real world example. So Latin might develop your independence, and here's why that's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's missing. I don't know, but like you said, you know, we didn't learn how to use audio, but then the times were different because it wasn't available either.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But it's all relevant to what you have. The other thing I was going to say about that as well is, and of course in this day and age, with the whole YouTube thing and stuff, there's so much free content about how to come up with ideas and how you play the drums from a technical level. It's all online. You know, obviously it's still handy to have the educator. I mean, I was self-taught, so you could, even back when I started, you could buy books, you could buy, you know, I got Contemporary Drummer +1 when it came out, and that was how I started getting into all my more heavyweight sort of fusion and Latin type stuff. So that there's always been the ability to sort of self-teach, but it's always been more useful to make sure you get a hands-on approach as well, and get somebody who can sort of point you in the direction. So for me, I think my approach to educating was the same way that I did it, which was that I taught myself, so I expected that if anyone came to me looking for lessons, they might have a bit of ability or a bit of knowledge, and then I would be the equivalent of the guys I used to find to teach me, and then they would sort of push those skills down in certain alleyways and focus them a bit better, because obviously when you're taking a lot of information from any source, whether it's books or, you know, YouTube or DVDs, you know, whatever, you know, it can get a bit cluttered. So it's good to find something to say, well, there's, you know, that's how you use, that's a good place to sort of use that, how to think about those skills and that coordination and so on and so forth. I think.
What struck me as well is things like reading isn't taught as much, and when you got to London, from what I understand, it kind of saved your bacon in a lot of respects, because you had 11 shows on the go at once or something.
No, I had nine. At one time, Deppin wise, yeah. But the bizarre thing about that is I never learned to read. I kind of just picked it up as I went along. Initially, because I taught myself to play from books,
right?
You just worked out what it kind of all meant, and it's kind of like really basic maths. You've got a block that's got this block thing that then split into certain beats, and they've all got a sign and they've all got a different sign and symbol, whether it's a cross or a dot or an open dot. So they all kind of obviously mean something, and you just got to do the association thing of what they actually mean. And once you get through that, it's then it's fairly plain sailing. I used to find that. I mean, I used to have a bit of a joke with people, because people would come up and say, "Oh, look, your sight reading's really good, because you just turn up and throw something in front of you, big band charts or whatever, and you play it from start to finish, and don't make a mistake." Well, obviously I did from time to time. Very happy to admit that. But I used to say, but I didn't. My concentration level when it came to reading, because I'd be too busy listening to what the tune is. I'd be trying to listen to what the tune is, and then I'd find myself looking back and going, "Oh, I'm slightly lost here," and I still do it to this day. And I kind of and I go, "Oh," and there's a couple of clues that you get you back. There's double bar lines. There's a phrase that will look like it's coming up and it'll tie in with the drum part. You go, I know where I am now. So don't get me wrong. When it comes to, if I have to just sit down and nail it, fine, I'll do that.
So yeah, we're talking about like nailing it with reading, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and how I was basically just telling you how I basically blag it most of the time. And I don't think I'm the only one.
Do you think it's important?
Yeah.
No, go Adam.
Oh no, I was going to say, do you think it's important for teachers to teach drummers how to read?
Yes.
Because I wasn't strictly taught how to read. I kind of, much like yourself, I kind of picked it up as I went, and still kind of picking it up as I'm going.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a lot of guys out there, especially if you want to do things like cruise ships and all that reading is, you need to almost have a degree in it.
I think if I can interject, you might disagree, Al, but it's probably more important to teach them how to interpret.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because some of the charts you get handed are pretty bogus, man.
There's an interesting thing with because obviously, again going back to when I started in 1914, people would charts were handwritten, so people would learn how to, you'd have the guys. So most people would give you a part that was kind of like written and would be kind of fairly similar language. But obviously when things like Sibelius and so on, when they all come into play and people were doing much more computer generated ones, they would just have the base settings of Sibelius, and they wouldn't really understand how to write for drums, and there are obviously other instruments that suffered from this as well. So you would then have to learn how to look at a computer generated chart, try and understand what was actually being looked for, then turn that into a drum part, and sort of, work it out as you went along without criticising the arranger who might be in the same room.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I've seen people, I know people who left jobs like in rehearsal because I'm not reading that. That's just, I can't make sense of that. So, and it has happened. These things have caused problems in the past.
One of the first.
But there are times when obviously you have to, you're going to get things when you're given specific information.
Yeah.
And you have to do that. And there are other times, obviously, when you are going to have to interpret. So both skills are kind of valid.
So then, from a total pro point of view, how do you get down to actually negotiating that? Because I've had charts handed to me when I was at college that need 3 hands. Literally, 3 drums are being played at the same time, and one of them is not the bass drum.
You've not got 3 hands. Adam, he's not got 3 hands. What's going on there?
How can you not have 3 hands?
I know, it's because I come from Kilmarnock. We've all got 3 hands in Kilmarnock.
I'm learning this the hard way because I've just moved to Kilmarnock. But yeah, like, how do you navigate that when someone's precious about something and it's like, well, this is actually physically impossible?
Yeah. Well, I had an experience of that. I used to do a thing called Mr. McFall's Chamber Orchestra, which is some of the members of the SCO and sort of drums, and augmented with various other instruments. And it was a great little challenge for me, that gig, because I was playing with like real, absolute classical players. And I was basically on stage live with them, so I had to come right down in volume, all that stuff. But we had this particular piece of music that was done, and it was done to some footage. So we were playing it live, and the screen would run the footage behind us, and the music itself was kind of like, during rehearsals, was kind of a bit horrible to be inside. and I'm not, before I go any further, I'm not going to do anything controversial here, because the chart I got was written in such a way that was very, very difficult to read. So I literally just went. We had a couple of days of rehearsals on this. It was very angular, very odd time signature-y, and so on and so forth. Lots of stops, lots of starts. And that thing of like going, well, what, the part wasn't written for drums. The person who obviously wrote it hadn't, and actually openly admitted that they weren't sure how to write for drums. It was this is a person who writes entirely for sort of classical instruments. So it was written much more from the point of view of a percussion set rather than a sort of drum kit set. So I had to basically take elements of it and go, well, how am I going to turn this into a part? Because I can't play, physically I can't play, because there are there was 6 things going at one time. So unless I started hitting a cymbal in my head, that's not going to happen. So I would just basically look at it, sort of strip it down, say what are the fundamentals. So kick, snare, hats, toms, right? And then see where the part was going, and essentially create my own part, and then feed back that information to the arranger, and just check that they were okay with it, and then give them the chance to sort of say, well, I don't like that. Can we do this? And I think that's the only way to approach it. Like anything, like when you're doing something new or you're doing something that you've never seen before, somebody's got a vision of how they want it to sound, and your job is maybe not to make it sound exactly like that, wherever, if you sort of can't because there's physical limitations, but to get it to approximate it,
right.
And then from there you've got a sort of good grounding of like communication. And it really comes down to that. I would say that the communication aspect of it is sort of vital when you're in any musical situation. As you both know, if you've got no communication with your fellow bandmates or people you're working with or colleagues at the shop or wherever, it's just going to be a disaster. So you have to really think about it from that point of view. So feedback information and just check that everything's okay. And when we went to do this stuff live, and the piece was about 7 or 8 minutes long, and as I say, playing inside it was unusual because what I was saying was different to what I was playing. Like there was a mismatch. But what I was playing was working, and the arranger was very happy with it, and the band were kind of happy with it. So I had to sort of deal with that. And then when I got a chance to sort of listen to it from a recording we did, and it turned out to be one of those moments in life you go, that's just fantastic, because the piece of music as a whole, with the combination of the footage, worked an absolute treat. It was a real beautiful piece of music. But being inside it, because of the sort of the complications of trying to interpret a chart by somebody who doesn't write specifically for drum kit, and then trying to be fair to that arranger and say, this is how I kind of see where this wants to go.
Yeah.
They signed off on it, and we ended up with something that worked really nicely. And actually, to this day, I was still very proud of my association with Mr. Rick Falls, because that kind of thing happened a few times with that particular orchestra, because I was dealing with people from the classical side of things and not, my normal sort of world. And that was a bit of a learning experience for me as well, because up until that point, most things I read were things I knew, even if I was looking at a part and it wasn't quite how it should be written, I would look at it and with a bit of experience go, yeah, I know that you're not actually looking for a ride cymbal there, you mean hi-hats, and just swap it over without really questioning it. So I think yeah, that it can be a tricky one, that, but you just have to sort of look at it and go, right, so I've got 3 hands here. Obviously, I've only got 2, so I have to take one of them away. Which one's the least important? So I've got if it looks like it's a groove and you go doof dat doof dat, and there's a random tom tom in there that you need a third hand for, you either take it away or you take the hi hat away. You move, but you keep the sort of backbeat going. Because that's the fundamental part of it. So keep to the fundamentals. Always stick to the fundamentals. It's kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, with some 8 notes. That's the fundamentals. Anything beyond that is, flavours, essentially, and even in the world, even when it comes to playing swing, I mean, 4 and a ride cymbals, really, that if you need, that's the fundamental, with 2 and 4 in your hi-hat, so that's the thing that keeps it, that's the thing that keeps it going, and anything above that, is touches and flavours, really, it's not essential. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's really fascinating.
No, it's really insightful.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating answer. It's like you kind of have to be super sensitive to people's needs beyond playing the actual drums, which is something that no one's ever really going to teach you, are they? You kind of really have to learn how to do that yourself.
Yeah, and there are definitely times you'll have difficult moments along that journey. I mean, I work with a songwriter based in Kilmarnock. Actually, whenever I'm up back home. And I've got one of my kits is in his basement in his studio, and over the years we've recorded quite a lot of stuff together, and it's often the case that he'll play me like a guitar thing that he's for an idea for a song, and I'll think about, okay, well that should be like something like that, right? And he'll go, yes, because that's what I'm hearing from the guitar, right? But he'll say, actually, can we just. And actually, this happens more often than not. You get, can you just give me that, and actually, because you're only hearing one aspect of it, you can that's how you come up with your initial feel. But what the other person's thinking is the whole thing. So, and you have to be able to adapt to that and just accept that even if you don't hear it that way, you have to accept someone else's approach to their song. By all means, give the feedback that you think, okay, well, this is how I hear it. But if ultimately they say, look, it's my song, it's my baby, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
And that's what being a hired hand is kind of really all been about. If it's your own project, it's up to you. You have as much fun with it as you want. But when someone else is paying you to do a job, or sometimes not paying you to do a job, but you're just doing it because you like creating music, if it's still their project, then you have to just go, that's what it's got to be. And that's don't let your ego get in the way of that. And that's quite difficult, because we all have egos to some extent.
Absolutely,
and and we can all be sympathetic towards egos, but ultimately you have to sort of push it to the back a little bit when you're working for someone to get the best out of the project overall. And also the other thing which is quite important is if somebody says it sounds good, especially recording, trust them.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you guys have ever had that thing when you're recording something, you go, nah, that's just not, I'm not happy with that placement there, that fill rushed,
Literally every time I've been in the studio, that is exactly what's happened.
It gets worse. I'm doing sort of some. I was letting Chris hear a little thing I was doing for somebody the other day using my Octopad. They're recording that reggae track I let you hear. The kind of thing. That was all done in my Octopad, like, individually, one by one, sort of like, and trying to line it up and make it sound natural, but because I wasn't quantizing it, so I was doing kick on one pad, then recording the cross stick on the next. So it took me back to the 80s when everything used to be sort of isolated. You go to a studio session, someone say, "Can we just record the snare drum and add the bass drum afterwards?" You'd be like, it's kind of mystery.
Fry your brain.
I was in a situation with that when I was letting the guy hear it, and I think it's just not sitting right, and he's going, "Dude, it sounds fine." I'm going, "Nah, that sounds a wee bit lumpy because I'm doing it live on pads as opposed to on a kit." He's going, "Dude, it sounds fine." And so, with me giving the advice of like just accept if somebody says it's good or not, I was breaking my own advice two or 3 nights ago, because you're too connected to it, and you hear and where where your mistakes are, what you perceive to be mistakes. So you have to let the other people who are in charge of the project tell you if they like it or not, and accept it if they like it, because and then when you come back to it, and there's the other for anyone out there who is recording and has these kind of battles, when you've done a recording, in my experience, walk away from it and then let somebody let you hear it, A, when it's finished, and B, 2 or 3 months down the line, so you've kind of forgotten entirely how you played it, and then you just hear it as a brand new track, and then you go. And I've done this loads, especially with my mate Neil, who I do the song in Kelly. Like I'll come back after 2 months and he'll go, "Do you remember this?" And he'll play it, and I'll be like, "Nope, not a clue. Sounds great. Who's on drums?" It's not me. I didn't play that, because you took the time away from it. And that's often. I mean, that's often a great thing to do with music anyway, because we all sort of care about it so much. It is part of us, that you can get so wound up when things ain't working right, whether it's gigs or whether it's studio or even your own practice time, when it's not working right, and you get so frustrated and everything, and you start to get a bit down about it, and why isn't it working? Why isn't it doing this? Why can I not play a paradiddle anymore? And that's the time to step away for some time. If it's an hour, 2 hours, a couple of days, put the sticks down, just walk away, come back, or don't do the gig for a while. That kind of thing can all be very, very beneficial. This lockdown is actually quite interesting, because initially, as you both know, I've been very lucky that I just have went from gig to gig to gig. That in the last 10, 15 years, I've not had anything more than say 2 or 3 weeks in between, a show. But this obviously lockdown is going to be here. Obviously, theatres won't. I can't imagine we'll be reopening at least till this, June or July. So nothing's really going to happen for us. And so I've literally got this thing where I've got a month, 2 months, maybe 3, where I've got literally no gigs. And that actually initially I wasn't. I was kind of a bit like, oh my God, how am I going to cope with like, this is what I do. This is, take that away from me, and there's nothing, that I have no idea what's going to feel. But actually, over the past couple of weeks, it's been quite refreshing because I feel like I've had a break. Albeit an enforced one. And I know it's under terrible circumstances, and obviously there's a lot of people suffering out there because of it. But just for this few weeks, it's been a bit of like, I've had some chance to relax and to think. So you have to use those moments positively wherever you can, whenever you need to get away from something, that's one of the small personal bonuses, I think, from having an enforced break, is it gives me a chance to refresh my mind and my body and my hands, and give me a bit of hunger to get back into it again.
What do you do to keep fresh otherwise? Because I know you physically train a lot and you read a lot as well. You do a lot of external reading of like subjects way out with music, physics, and all sorts of crazy stuff.
My most recent one is I've created a document about the Anglo-Saxon kings of England. I'm not joking. From 540 AD through to 950 or so.
Who's the winner?
Well, it's Wessex. The kings of Wessex end up dominating English politics after that. So I won't go through it with you. But this came about because somebody I know had sort of said, "Can you explain how this happens here and that happens there?" And I thought, well, that's a fascinating thing because I can explain bits of it. So I ended up going in my sort of geeky way that I do. Sat down at the computer and sort of opened up a Word document and then I thought, oh, okay. So I start doing these. I have to write about them all and show how they all tie into each other. So it took me about 2 or 3 months, and I've created this timeline that started off with what they call the Anglo-Saxon heptarchy, which is the 7 kingdoms, and eventually it narrows down through history, through loads of fighting, politics. The Vikings come in and take over the north of England and so on, and blah 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 blah, and eventually it channels down to this one person who's of the Wessex line. So if you've ever seen Vikings in King Egbert, he's one of the characters in that. He's the guy that that's where the timeline sort of. The Kings of Wessex.
Strangely, I've got the box set to watch. Gail's dad loves it, so I'll get into
fantastic.
It. Right, okay.
I thoroughly recommend that. No, the other historical docudramas are available.
Allendale Productions.
See, for anyone who says that this is just a drumming podcast, I raise you Allendale and Vikings.
Well, one of my things is I think he was saying if anybody thinks it's just a drumming podcast, he raises you Allendale with Vikings.
That's why the beard. That's why the beard. I want to grow a ponytail at the back of my head, and then turn into. I'm not joking. This is one of the things I thought about doing for the next couple of months as well. Just like disappearing and coming back out with a full head of like hair. Unfortunately, the top bit doesn't grow very much.
That's your superpower as well, though. The top bit.
The top, yeah. If I get sunburned, I'll look a little bit like a Duracell battery. Again, I'm not really joking. That does happen.
No, but I think it's actually really important for drummers to have something else.
Is
away from
not just drummers, but everyone.
But especially like you are literally consumed by it.
It's a passion. It's a passion. It's a problem. Because I get so into it. I literally I think I do. I mean, I know they kind of secretly love it, but my fellow band members do get a bit frustrated when I sort of go off in tangents. When we'll be in an ancient city or somewhere like Bristol or Bath or something,
York or something,
and I'll be off on one about like the whole history of the city. That's the other thing I do when I go to. That's one thing I quite like about touring. Anywhere you go, finding out the history of that town or that area, why street names are called street names. That's a big thing for me. If you walk around, next time, honestly, try it. Walk around the city if you're in town or if you're just have a little walk and see. Look at the street names. Some are very obvious and some are less so, and see how many are old and weird. So that takes you down. that takes you down a very interesting path.
Yeah.
Obviously, the street names and stuff, but no, it's you go to some great places. I mean, I've got a load of favourites on the touring circuit. Norwich is one of my favourites.
Oh,
Bristol's
really?
another favourite. Yeah, oh god, yeah, Norwich. Oh man, that's just. Yeah, I'm not highlighting any one particular place, but there are so many great places that I can. And everywhere's got museums. This is the kind of real interesting thing. Even the most, the places where you're less likely to think have got anything interesting, they always do, and it's fascinating. It's always fascinating, I could tell you why Sunderland's called Sunderland, if you wanted. I'm not.
Do you know what? Yes, do it. I'm all for it.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not in the drumming podcast. I suggest to anyone else that they do it. But it's definitely a passion and a hobby, but it's a healthy one because it means that I'm not focused entirely. I escape the gig.
Yeah. One of the podcasts we're bringing out is we just did with a guy called Matt Brennan, who's a doctor, a music doctor, and he doctors music.
Did he invent the pulse? Is he invent the pulse?
No.
Is that him?
No.
Is that what it's called? Is that called the Brennan? You're thinking of the
Sound Brenner.
The Brenner, that's
right.
Yeah.
No, this guy's written a book called Kick It, The Social History of the Drum Kit. And this is a really fascinating dude, Adam? He was like...
No, he's brilliant.
Man, you could talk to this guy.
Amazing.
And he's taken it basically from the evolution of the drum kit to now. So from like Baby Dodds and all those guys into why the drum kit is played the way it is and how music has been shaped by the growth of the drum kit. It's like no other instrument in the history of music has shaped modern music like the drums have. Really fascinating.
It's a fundamental instrument. It's the basis of everything in sort of
popular music.
Because it's the bedrock of the groove, and obviously it's one of the newest of the instruments in terms of like drums have obviously been around a long time, but putting them together as one unit with cymbals and tom-toms and bass drums,
absolutely,
it's a fairly new instrument, and the technical advancements when you look at, there was a Stuart Copeland many years ago did this series about the history of drums. It was on Radio 2 or something, and it was fascinating because he did that thing. He's exactly sick. Went right back to the start and listened to all the stuff through the big band era, into the swing era, and then the second program, which is still one of my favourite things I've ever heard. And he went, and in 1955. You ain't nothing but a... And because it was coming forward in history, you realised the importance of those changes. Yeah. And all fuelled by these thumping great drummers that were like, and they were brand new. They were the guys who were really developing the instrument. I mean, my favourite drummer of all time is still Krupa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't... It's just there's something about it. Something about his feel, his swing,
Him as a person, I think, as well.
Yeah, he'll seem to be come across as as a kind of good guy,
Yeah, larger than life.
I mean, and he propelled the drums forward financially as well as he was a guy that got the drums paid the same. I believe I might not be. I don't think I'm entirely sure about this one, but I think he was a guy who got the drummers' wages in the big bands up to a par with everyone else,
But
so
the guy
Matt was speaking a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Matt kind of mentioned a lot about that.
He mentioned that was it Glenn Miller he played for?
Krupa, no, he was Benny Goodman.
Benny Goodman, that's it, and he fell out with Benny Goodman because people were more interested in Krupa than they were in the band.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jesus.
He went off and obviously formed his own unit after that.
So drummers as celebrity, like as far back as 50, whatever, it's pretty fascinating. Yeah. I think, I don't know anywhere near. This guy's forgotten more than I think I'll ever know. But and I don't want to give too much of the podcast away. But it's really, really fascinating to check out.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's. But those things are fascinating because it is very important to understand where it comes from and how it gets there. Because if you don't have if you don't know where it comes from, like you can copy what's around, it's less. If you know what's behind that, you can sort of take that and use that and propel it forward yourself to some extent. I mean, I had a lesson off of Steve Smith years and years ago. Yeah, and it was fascinating because what we spoke about more than anything was about the history of the drums. He was just starting that thing with Freddie Gruber.
Oh yeah, he did that whole DVD.
And he sort of, but he spoke about like why Bonham, Ian Pace, all those great British drummers had such great feel, and it's because they were all basically coming from a sort of swing background, blues background, shuffles, and I remember my first sort of time when I was picking up the sticks. And learning how to play straight grooves and listening to records, and of course, pick that up. And then I learned how to play shuffles, and it was much more tricky because I didn't have anyone showing me for a start, and I had to look at it written down, and I had to work through how to break up a beat into three and then take away the middle one, and so on and so forth. And of course, but those guys in the past started from a place of swing, and then it straightened up through history, like into the and when you feel that crossover feel where it's not swing but it's not straight, that develops through that early rock and roll period, and that's why all those great rock and roll songs from the sort of 50s, and that's why they have such a phenomenal feel, because it's not quite strictly straight, and it's not entirely swung. It's that kind of halfway house thing, and it's a really important feel. And you can study it and you can sort of analyse it, but ultimately it comes down to a switching off and just trying to establish and feel that particular feel. And if you can get into that place, that's a really important thing to learn to do as well. So, in fact, I had a and I was going to say I had a session for an advert. I used to do these sessions for adverts, like back in it was when Savard was still the old church, and we used to get sent these edited versions of a song to learn it, and then go into the studio and knock it down in 2 or 3 takes or whatever, and then it would go out as an advert with different words. I'm not going to name any of the companies I did it for, but one of the ones was, do you know that song by the Beach Boys, Fun, Fun, Fun Till Your Dad Takes the T-Bird Away? Yeah. That's a really interesting feel, because I used to treat these things as interesting sort of things to practice, whatever. And I think it's Larry London in that track. I don't know for certain. It could be what's his face? Oh, I forget. But it's one of those great players from that period. And the thing is, right, so the tom-tom is the left hand, you know that thing where you play both hands, you go and both hands are doing the eighth note, right? It's kind of that, except one hand's on the snare, one hand's on the tom, the bass drum's just ploughing through four on the floor. And the snare drum is, I can't remember which way around it is, but the snare drum was played quite straight. So imagine that tune, fun, fun, fun to your daddy. But the float tom, it was straight, it was going, and it was like those two things were happening at the same time.
Jesus.
And I was like, hey, does he mean that, or is that just a thing that's unique to him? So I actually sat down and tried to get as close to that as I could. And I suddenly, at that period in time, I suddenly started getting into that thing of trying to play shuffles on one hand and straight with the other hand, which I thought was an incredible. And that was a great little period of sort of going, wow, how come I've only just discovered this? Because it was a lot of fun and quite challenging as well.
So have you managed to? Well, you have managed to play music through periods that you've lived through, i.e., you grew up in the 80s, you played 80s music. So would you approach that with an understanding of what it was maybe like culturally, I can't even say that word, or like how that music was received during the time, how people dressed and all that stuff?
The 80s are a decade I choose to want to forget.
Right, okay.
There's a lot of people that don't like my approach to the 80s. I was there. Obviously there was some great stuff in it, and a lot of the music recording technology, came about at that time. Obviously,
some of the metal out of the 80s was amazing.
Some of it is. I mean, it's a wee bit shiny, but
yeah, that's okay.
I'll come back to this, but I had a great moment through my theatre career, which referred back to my youth as a metalhead. Because I, for anyone who doesn't know, I used to have like Here Down There and sort of like, I mean, but the band, I still to this day, it's not going to happen. But I do want to play with Iron Maiden. It's not going to happen. But
let's start a petition.
Nick will move over for one. Just one.
The trooper.
But yeah, exactly. So and I taught myself to play essentially to Live After Death.
Right.
That was essentially the album I used to play along to the most. Playing through the generations. I mean, I started playing. I think I was 14 or 15, so that'd be 85, 86. But I turned pro fairly quickly. I mean, January 89, I think, was when I turned pro.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me into the world of a lot of this kind of soul band that did gigs around the country at the time. So that was kind of that focus, and I wasn't playing much. I had a couple of bands that I was in, but they were kind of trying to be like that was kind of more towards the 90s. The 80s stuff I didn't really come across, because when I was getting into music in the 80s, it was about listening to 70s rock or contemporary heavy metal at that time in the sort of mid to late 80s. The Guns N' Roses and Whitesnake and those kind of Poison, kind of bands like that, and Slayer. We like a bit of Slayer. So I never really played much 80s style music. In fact, the only time I played really anything that was kind of 80s stylistically was probably when I was doing the Bodyguard show. Because obviously there was some of that stuff. Obviously is.
Pause that thought. I'm nipping to the loo. Keep going. You can talk to Adam, but if my screen changes and I'm not there, it's because I'm in the toilet.
Right. We'll hold this thought. I've got a good one for him when he comes back, right? Okay, just when he comes back, I'm going to ask him something that's a classic gag. So the 80s stuff. Again, I've not much experience playing 80s sort of tunes, but when the V drums became obviously as popular as they are now, that was a great time for going through those sounds and opening up that repertoire, because I did have a few when I got my first V kit. I would like sit down, and of course the sounds I loved the most were the
me too. Big time.
So I suddenly found myself kind of enjoying playing 80s sounding drum kits.
Yeah, totally.
Because physically it was in front of me, and so I end up using quite a lot of those. V drums are great for that. V drums are great for so many things, and I'm not obviously necessarily want to promote Roland here particularly, but they are, and obviously Yamaha's the DTX stuff is great. I mean, I've got less knowledge of that, but yeah, it's fairly similar. So I use those kind of sounds from time to time on I kind of do. There's a Welsh TV programme which is all V drums, which I do from time to time, and there has been moments in that when I've got the Power Ballads kit set up, for a particular song, so I set up my own reverbs and everything on it. Oh, Chris, by the way, could you hear us when you were in there?
No.
We could hear you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we could hear you.
Good. That's.
That was my gag. I told him I was going to do a gag, so it's the best thing.
It's like that bit in the bit in The Naked Gun when he goes to the toilet. He's still got the microphone on.
Such a good movie.
Comedy gold, man. Comedy gold. What did I miss?
We're just talking about like how the 80s, as I was saying, was sort of a bit of a lost thing for me.
Okay.
And I haven't done much stuff about the 80s. I mean, because obviously when I was starting to play, it was mid 80s and stuff, but my focus was on 70s rock and
right, okay.
The shiny metal that was around in the in the 80s. Obviously, there was other great bands as well. But yeah, I never focused much on the popular music at the time.
Yeah.
Wasn't my thing. And it still isn't. Obviously, there were some great artists around in the 80s. I mean, there's no denying. There's always great artists around in every generation. But the 90s for me was a time that felt that music had sort of came back again, especially when grunge.
Some amazing drummers.
Yeah, that was when it felt to me like it was coming back to being more about bands. And I mean, I know that a lot of people are not fans of them, but even bands like Oasis and Blur, and those guys did a lot to push music back towards coming away from the sort of programmed side of popular music to making it more about, being in bands again, which was great because it meant that I think, because one thing I noticed when I was teaching around that time was a lot of drummers.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to learn to play drums.
Absolutely.
Yourself, obviously, and a whole bunch of people. And everyone was learning from the stuff that Blink were doing, or
Pearl Jam and all that.
Pearl Jam, yeah, absolutely.
Soundgarden, all those bands, Nirvana,
all those bands.
Spice Girls, naturally.
But I mean, watch the Andy. I mean, go and watch them live with Andy Gangadine. I mean, that period, that was Spice World tour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that band is just insane. And I've got a friend of mine who played with Kylie for a long time, and
oh wow,
yeah, it's just I mean, these think about a lot of those bands that are, or acts that are like, very sort of programmed in the studio, or it's all kind of done that way. The minute they go out live, they take a cracking bunch of session musicians with them, and suddenly, you have this killer band, and it changes it like you wouldn't believe,
we had Andrew Small in the shop a couple of times. He was Kylie's MD.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
absolutely
smashing.
smashing.
He would have been on the gig. He'd have been on the gig at the time. My friend Martin was playing guitar.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely smashing.
Sure yeah. Oh, he's incredible. I know. The thing is, you don't get those gigs unless you can play. You don't really get any serious professional gig unless you can play. I mean, it really comes down to that. And that's where you have to have a bit of respect. I mean, I have been quite joking in my youth about, like, not something was too simple. I mean, I'm a huge Beatles fan, but I did go through a phase when I didn't really want to listen to the Beatles because Ringo's drumming was too simple. That was obviously when I was about like 15, 16, when it was all about getting the chops out. And of course, you get a slap in the head, a musical slap in the head, and you sort of like go, duh, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's just that's just music. It's music in the way it should be.
Yeah.
It's right for that stuff, and that's what and I guess to some extent that's what all these session guys that you're saying about Andrew and any one of us that's a hired hand, is the only reason you get asked back is because you do the right thing.
Yeah.
And you do it quickly. That's the one advantage that anyone that's out there, whether it be the theatre world or whether it be, and we all sort of cross over anyway. I mean, we all, my background isn't remotely really about theatre. It's doing gigs around the town and doing everything from like the jazz gigs that used to be around the circuit from Glasgow, Edinburgh, from function bands to, so we all do a bit of everything. And the only way you can really do that is if you've got that base set of skills, and then on top of that some experience, and know when to play a specific thing, or indeed when not to play a specific thing. It's that whole leaving a bit of space thing, the time it's tempting to go and you just go, nah, bosh. That's all really important. That's why you kind of sort of get asked back, I think. And obviously then there's the idea of trying to be a nice person into the bargain. That helps as well. I can't tell you how I'm getting on with that, but I'll let you know.
Well, you've worked for a long time, so you must be doing something right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the playing, not the personality. And it's definitely not the jokes. Definitely not the jokes. Yeah.
So what are you working on just now? Have you got anything particular you're practicing, or?
Well, my lock-up is basically shut, so I can't get access to a kit. But I've decided to go old school and
Oh, check it out.
Get the hands out.
Back to basics.
It's back to basics. That's going to be one of the benefits, because how many times, and I've done it, we've all done it from time to time, how many times do you get the opportunity to just sit back and go, right, going to start off with some single stroke rolls, then do some roughs and some drags, and go through the whole Buddy Rich rudiments book, and just check your hands and just check for weaknesses and bad habits that creep in, because they do. I mean, because obviously technical stuff is what you need to. That's your device for making life easier on the instrument. But because if you're playing every day, like I thankfully was, it's very easy to just not think too much about technique and just go, well, I've been playing for 30 years, so therefore I know how to hit a hi-hat, or how to do a paradiddle. But then when you strip it back down again, I'm always coming across bits that I go, oh yeah, I haven't played that I haven't done a 5-stroke roll for a long time. So I listen to it and I go, crikey, my right hand's a bit heavier than my left. Just a basic thing like that. And those things are, so it's a real, I mean, I've been doing maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours just on my pad most days, doing a bit of that writing stuff, coming up with those drum beats for my mate's reggae song. So that's kind of what I've been doing at the minute, and doing a bit of reading, and not been listening to too much new music of the moment, but I was kind of been just listening back through my old metal catalogue, and sort of hence why I was listening to Five Finger Death Punch today, and sort of, and I was doing a bit of Korn yesterday, and
oh wow,
so yeah, and it was such a shame. I was planning to go to Download this year as well, for my second one, because I went there for the first time ever last year.
I know, and sending me Tool videos while I couldn't go.
They were so good.
Yeah,
they were so good.
Tool,
and I couldn't remember it was you that asked me. Because I remember I had to work out eulogy.
That's right.
And it was you that there was. We spoke about that, and I couldn't remember who it was, but that was kind of my inspiration. So yes, I'm definitely going through my midlife heavy metal crisis at the minute.
Oh, good.
So
naturally the double pedals back out.
When I get back on that kit, because as I say, I can't get access to my lockup at the minute, so I'm not able to play a kit until these restrictions obviously ease off a little bit, and so it's on the pad just now, and I can imagine that none of us will be gigging for at least two months or so till they can sort of obviously this thing gets a bit more contained. So it's a perfect opportunity for me to hopefully we'll be able to move again. By the end of the month, maybe enough to let me get to my lockup. If that's the case, then just go back to doing 8-hour practice days. That'll be.
I'm excited
be a lot of fun.
for the other side of this. For the other side of this kind of pandemic, like if we're not all better drummers, then something's definitely went wrong.
Well, the thing is, I think what you'll get is, I think everyone will be such a sort of relief. That I think that the desire for entertainment will be there to help people sort of ease smile again. So I think there might be even a boost to the arts in general, because it's the music industry and the arts industry tend to do really well through tough times, whether it's a recession or whether it's because people need those releases of joy, and there's a lot of great options for home entertainment, but it's never the same as seeing someone do something live. Whether it's songs or whether it's plays or whether it's
I had
on a wall,
tickets to go and see Blade Runner with the orchestra performing the score, which would have been
I had tickets to
amazing.
I had tickets to go see Brastoff.
Oh, did you? Oh, amazing!
No way! Wow.
Yeah, but it's obviously gone. But yeah,
I think
that was that at the concert hall.
It was, yeah. I think they've rescheduled it, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm available for the date.
Yeah.
Like I can go. I've not got something on.
Have you seen one of those before?
I have. I've seen a few. I saw Psycho, which was
Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow.
that was
Wow.
something else. I've seen the A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I've got tickets for Return of the Jedi with the orchestra performing it. I think that's all I've seen. Psycho was amazing because it was basically a chamber orchestra.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
all strings. So I'm very excited to get to see it. It's great to do.
Adam, have you seen anything? Have you seen one of those yet? Have you?
I've seen Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone with the live orchestra,
Brilliant.
and it was
Brilliant.
sensational. It was brilliant.
I've done two. I've done the New Hope and Jurassic Park.
Oh, I've seen Jurassic Park
Jurassic
as well.
Park would
Yeah.
have been awesome.
I did see Jurassic
was,
Park. Yeah, it was amazing.
And I mean, both of those were at the Albert Hall, and it was amazing because what you get from the live experience of that is you sort of hear bits that are sort of mixed, or just not mixed lower, but come in lower in the actual soundtrack. So suddenly you hear like a bell or a flute that's a bit louder, so you actually hear a bit more detail, or and that's what I always think that's the little joy of that. You'll hear something, it's there, but it's never poked out in the same way.
What I love more than any of it is when you forget the orchestra's there.
Yeah.
It's and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's been played live. Like, yeah.
And the things about that as well. I mean, that's a kind of music experience should be kind of like that. It should be like not so much forgetting there's people are playing, but it should leave a sort of an emotional memory that you can think, wow.
Yeah.
Like we're all sort of saying once we say wow, and that, and I think one of the things is because music has never stopped, gigs have never stopped never actually been forced to stop, certainly in my lifetime, and I don't think in anywhere recent, even the last, even through the two big wars and stuff like that, I don't think music ever stopped, and I think myself as a pro player who's had the luxury of being in work, having moved from one thing, or have always been gigged, you take it for granted, and you take the skills you have for granted. You take the skills that other people have for granted, and I wouldn't say I've ever taken an audience for granted, but you kind of sort of think there's going to be an audience. You just think there's people going to turn up.
Yeah.
And I think this is a bit of a game changer in that way, because now you go, actually, nothing that we do is particularly guaranteed. It can change at the drop of a hat in any situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think it has to take something like this to bring our industry to a sort of a pause, if not a complete halt. So it's obviously, leaves us in a strange world that obviously, you're not being able to actually play in front of an audience is strange, because it's it's what we do, but and it's not there.
It's interesting because what I find fascinating right now is that, albeit people aren't being creatively in public, like if anything, this has made people more creative, because now things like what we're doing literally just now, like we're able to have a podcast without being in the same room. People are able to record and write music without being in the same room. And I guess it's probably always been there, but it's definitely not been as prominent as what certainly the last few weeks have shown us.
Well, this is the thing about the technology leads us to this place, and there are many upsides and many downsides to technology. And this is definitely an upside, being able to share a platform and indeed keep in contact with people much easier. I've sent several people just messages, just checking they're okay. Because obviously this is a stress on everyone for lots of different reasons, financially and just life. So that, and without the sort of technology we have now, you couldn't do it instantaneously. You'd have to wait, or be on a busy phone line, or send a letter. So where we are now is we can do it instantaneous, and we can, as you say, we can have a situation where I can see you guys and we're all, several miles apart. And obviously we have the recording technology that we can capture the audio as well and have a sort of experience and a moment that everyone's aware that everyone's okay, and that's really important. And to share some stories and a few laughs, that's kind of vital.
Yeah, man. Well, where can people find you if they want to see what you do and all that?
I've got a YouTube channel, just some bits and bobs, really, some bits of fun on there, some gigs and stuff, some little snippets of things. I need to do a wee bit more updating on that, some audio files and various other things. I'm not on Instagram. I am on Facebook, so just those ones really, mainly because most of what I do is one of those things where we kind of get the work I do isn't about selling me to it's a kind of I get booked sort of on the basis of I guess previous experiences. Sure. I guess and I'm kind of been a bit rubbish at keeping up to date with the old social media thing because it's not necessarily been a requirement. So that's basically me. Okay. Because again, most of my work is based on sort of reputation and word of mouth that
we did the rig rundown with you on the Bodyguard, so we'll be sure to share that as well.
Yeah, man.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, man. Well, thank you for the time today. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much, Al.
I hope my Anglo-Saxon facts weren't too dull.
That's what we should
highlight. It's a highlight for me.
When we next see each other, I'll tell you about my other project, which is Interesting Facts, which is when you slightly lie and try and catch people out, or you tell them the truth, and it's up to them to work out whether it's not true or real. So,
the height of the Blackpool Tower based on.
That's there are things that will surprise you what are true and what are not. So anyway,
right, okay, mate. Well, thanks so much. Take care. And we'll hopefully catch you soon.
Awesome, and thanks for having me.
No, not at all.
As soon as I get a chance to come up, I'll be popping into the new shop because I've yet to see it. And give my best to everyone out there, and give my best to your good lady.
Will do.
And you as well, Adam. And give my best to Paul and everyone, and Big Dave. Did I tell you I saw Big Dave playing with the choir boys in Southampton?
Some boy, yeah.
Oh, he's amazing.
What a great! That was a great gig. What a stunning player. Very good quality. Big shout out to Dave McCluskey.
He does the twos and the fours quite well. Does the big man?
Yeah, good old school rock and roll drumming there. I tell you,
man.
That was awesome. Well, thanks, guys. And,
no worries, mate.
Thanks, Alan.
Enjoy your time
at home,
at the house.
Yeah.
Give my love to Kelly.
Well done, mate. Cheers.
Take it easy.
See you guys.
Bye.